Yeah.
and then she would sleep and maybe wake up for a feed at like 5 a.m. and then go back to sleep for another 3 hours.
Okay.
Um, so she'd be, having a good 10 to 12 hours with maybe one feed,
Yeah.
um, one or two. So
Right.
that was nice, except that
Yeah.
the boys would wake up at 5:30. So um,
Well, at least this one
yeah,
left to handle at that time.
yeah. But now it's more, I haven't like been writing it down and it's hard to keep track of because I'm just so tired.
Mhm.
Um, and we've been away for Christmas as well. So we're back home now, but it happened before we were going away, while we were away. And then since we've been back, that's been the last few weeks when she's been waking up more frequently, maybe 3 or 4 times a night.
Okay.
And she's, I think she's been breastfeeding to sleep, but more for comfort than for eating. Like, I know she'll just fall asleep on the boob and and be looking for the boob, even though she's not really eating. And
Right.
then when I try and transfer her, she might, look for it again. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, and that might be 3 or 4 times a night now.
Okay.
And so it's taking longer to get her back to sleep when she wakes up those times as well.
Right. Right. Okay. So she's basically what happens at this age is when they're showing those kinds of signs, um, that is that change that's like really evident that she's like really aware of what usually happens to get her back to sleep. But at the same
Hmm.
time, it's her innate wisdom saying, okay, I need to find a way that I can figure out how to relax and let sleep come, because
Hmm.
I feel like the way that I can relax and let sleep come is to have something to eat and to suck to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And that has been absolutely true for the first few months, especially for the first 8 weeks. That's the modus operandi, right? Gain
Hmm.
weight, sleep, gain weight, sleep. And so that's when all of that growth is taking place. And then in the
Yeah.
latter part, leading up to the 12-week mark, that's, remember the flower that I used to talk about? It's opening, the bud that's opening up to the world around us. So she's
Yeah.
becoming much more aware. And it's during that period as well that they start to sneak in more night feeds and less day feeds, because the world around them becomes much more interesting, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes we can get a bit stressed out about the cat naps appearing around that 10-week to 16-week mark. And it's usually around the 10 to 12-week mark. Well, when have the cat naps started appearing for you, or were they always there?
Um, she's always sort of like had big naps in the morning and then cat naps in the afternoon.
Hmm. Okay. And
Yeah.
recently it's she's still having longer naps during the day, during the morning?
Sometimes, not every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have the cat naps increased in the last sort of
Yes.
4 to 6? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's
Definitely.
all completely normal. All right. As I
Yeah.
was sort of referring to. So that's all to do with realizing the world around them. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
So this is the period though where, and you're probably like getting a little bit more aware of it, where we start to rely on what works during the newborn phase too
Mm.
much.
Yeah.
And what it is that we rely on it and it works, but because of that change in the brain, it's almost like the innate wisdom is saying, yeah, but there's got to be like a slightly better way so that I can rely on my own devices to get myself back to sleep, that I can be comfortable with that. So
Yeah.
that's why it's not really a big deal when a baby like learns that they need to be rocked to sleep, held to sleep, fed to sleep. That just means that they're smart and they understand what normally happens before sleep happens. So we need
Hmm.
to institute extra sleep associations, which is your book, which is your
Yeah.
lullaby. And remembering that the lullaby, and I remember you sent me through the video of one of your children
Yes.
singing that lullaby.
Yeah. Still sings it. It's very cute.
Beautiful. Remember to use that lullaby possibly
Yeah.
the most, because if you're wanting to move from feeding to sleep and holding to sleep, which sounds like
Hmm.
for the most part, the usual way to do it is to go from feeding to sleep to just holding to sleep. And then you start to really like using that sleepy time lullaby while you're holding to sleep, and remembering when you're holding to sleep to not be rocking or doing anything else, you know. So
Okay.
what you want to
Yeah.
be doing is when you're starting to institute sleep coaching, where we want to change things from the way they are to something else that's more holistic, that's more in a directive from the baby. We want to just completely move away from what we don't want to be happening, and that
Yeah.
is sending the message that she needs to eat to get to sleep. That's numero uno. In so many ways, it's controversial, but you know, it is the case that the baby needs to realize that, oh, okay, the nursing is there if I need it, if I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But if she's always feeding to sleep, what can tend to happen at this time is the snack feeds start to increase as well. So then she's not having the longer feeds that you wanted to have during the day and at nighttime as well. So that's where there can tend to be, as I've observed, a lot of problems with the feeding to sleep aspect, because the babies tend to feel more hungry more frequently because they're not taking as long a feeds. So that's one motivation for it. But I'm not here, as you know, to sell you to go do it. You need to be, you know, wanting to do it yourself. But if you want to do it, just do it slowly to see if she's one of those easygoing babies.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of them are. Generally, they're not, you know, the easygoing parents. The parents of the easygoing babies aren't usually contacting me, but you're a previous client, so you're just wanting to
She has been like up until now a very easygoing baby. So
well, that's why I'm kind of just like wondering if,
yeah.
you know, because you said it was for confidence, not because you're like panic alert or anything like that. But
Yeah.
what you can be doing in this stage is to just be like, do you know what? Like, if this is what you decide to do, okay, I'm not going to feed to sleep anymore, and just don't do it. You do your routine where you do both boobs, and then you do the bath routine, and then you put her down to bed and hold her to sleep, transfer her after 10 minutes. Do that for a week.
Yep.
Singing the sleepy time lullaby until she goes to sleep. The next week, put her down in the crib. I'm speaking American now, too much YouTube.
Yeah.
You put her down in the cot and, you know, on her side, and give her a very unstimulating back rub. So it's more nurturing, than, because we've got to be careful with all these movements that can be so stimulating, that can be so interesting, you know, and that's half the reason why babies can become a little bit reliant on them. They start to believe that they need you to do something to get them to sleep, rather than you doing something with them, which is pre-sleep routine, to let them know pre-verbal what is expected of them and what's happening next. So then you, in the next week, you put her down on her side, and you give her a little bit of a rub on her back. You sing the sleepy time lullaby. Then she's realized she's gone to sleep in her cot, and she's able to do that. Let her fall down, you know, fall back down on your hand after 10 minutes, because usually it's around 10 minutes. That's why the 10-minute wait that I always used to talk about and still do, right? It's about 10 minutes to settle down to sleep. Once she gets used to that, then it should be pretty straightforward to just leave the room, you know. But if you want to slow it down a little bit more, just depending on what you're comfortable with doing, and you just got to always follow through with whatever it is that you do, and do it for a full week. If you want to keep slowing that down, because this is obviously like the full, complete, gentle approach, and that doesn't mean that she won't be crying. She could perhaps need to cry, and always remembering that it's not about her not liking it. It's about, you know, babies communicate in so many different ways. You're on baby number 3, you know that they communicate about so many different things. She might communicate that it's different. She might communicate that she's tired. She might need to offload some stuff before she goes off down to sleep. So we always want to be remembering to respect the tear, to not fear the tear. You know, we're not abandoning the babies or anything like that. You know, even if you do have those spaced intervals, they're very, very brief, and you're there in full presence for your baby. But at this stage, you could you could be doing that. You know, you can
Yeah.
stay in the room if you want to. It's up to you,
Mhm.
but do one or the other. Don't
Okay.
mix it up because you're in rescue mode. All
Yeah,
right.
okay.
That's sending really, really ambivalent messages to the child, and it can also send them the message that you're not certain about anything, and that raises anxiety. We want it to be very predictable. So
Okay.
what we're doing here is you're layering in the new sleep associations from the pre-sleep routine, right? The sleepy
Mhm.
time essentials, starting off with like the most important one, the lullaby, because that's your sleep phrase, you know, for
Mhm.
resettling her overnight. And once you've done all of these things and you feel confident with them, even when you haven't done all these things, always wait the 10 minutes overnight, because you know, if she's been able to sleep for these periods of time, even if she's waking up after 3 hours, she's linking sleep cycles. It's
Yeah.
just that often what happens during this kind of changeover of the 4-month like sleep change is that when the sleep pressure slightly wears off at night, that's when they wake and the sleep cycles are different now, and then they wake
Mhm.
and they signal, and then we come in too quickly. And I can imagine you could be forgiven if you come in real quick worrying about the other kids waking up, or just wanting to get on with it so you can go back to sleep, or not
Yeah.
wanting to wake up husband. They're usually, it's usually one of those three. But the
Yeah.
problem with that is long term, the habit just keeps recycling, because it's like, oh, I'm not fully awake yet. Now I'm awake. Oh, there's my favorite person. And there's my favorite
Mhm.
food. And yeah,
Yeah.
let's hang. I'd love some of that.
Mhm.
Thanks. And I'd love to hang out with you too. So it's like she might not have woken up. Like
Mhm.
if you wait that 10 minutes, she might decide to settle back to sleep.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Now she is
Yeah.
still in the same room as you.
Yes.
If you've got the space, get a room divider, because seeing you
Yeah.
can be a little bit stimulating at this
Well,
age.
I mean, she's in a quite a low cot at the end of the bed, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure
It's
that she
just
would be
that
able to see us while
it's
she's in
just that
bed.
it's like, it can be just a helpful thing just for the separation. Just that you can
Yeah.
feel
Okay.
movement even if you can't fully see it, if you know what I mean. And also
Yeah.
energetically. I mean, it's not an urgent one. It's probably about 5% of this, but it can really help with your energy and that of their dad as well, because then you're just not
Yeah. Okay.
feeling like you're tiptoeing around and worried. So if the
Yeah. Okay.
energy feels confident, she's less likely to. Does that make sense? Because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
just like tiptoe through, or oh, is she awake? Or like it's like, oh, just
Yeah.
there's those kind of scenarios. But again, it's not absolutely necessary, but it can be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to keep her with you in the room for a bit longer, because yeah, she might not see you now, but yeah, it
Hmm.
just
As she's able to sort of sit up and look around a bit more.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like I said, like it's just energetically, it's just so much more helpful, and it takes the pressure off as well, because if she's used to that room divider, you don't have to feel, unless you want to, you don't have to feel that pressure to move her into her own room sooner rather than later. You can be a little bit more comfortable having her in your room if you want that. Like lots of parents want, the baby out of the room
Hmm.
because they make so much noise at nighttime. That's usually the main reason. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a factor to consider. In terms of the 10 p.m. bedtime, I can totally understand why that's going, but is number two going to bed really late, or is it just like,
Oh, yeah. It's like a long. It's
are you guys
sometimes
having
it's
like
better.
having a little nap in there?
Oh, yeah.
Your early evening nap. I know that
Yeah.
one. Oh,
Um,
okay, I'll just have a little sleep here.
well, no, I mean he just lies there awake for like an hour. It takes so long to fall asleep
Ooh,
with him.
oh, that's hard.
He's very wound up. And he's getting a bit better, and he's better
Yeah.
with my husband. So
Mm,
he's been doing more bedtimes.
okay.
Um, because yeah, he just with me, he just wants to play and muck around.
Right.
Um, yes, Eddie, the sun is up. Um, so it's yeah, but it can be a really long, drawn out
Is he having like a
process.
really long nap still during the day?
Some days, yes, like an
Mhm.
hour, maybe sometimes 2 hours. Like he sleeps more at daycare,
I've heard of this.
because he's busy.
Yeah.
And then,
But they also
but then,
won't wake them
yeah,
up.
yeah.
So
Although
how
they,
old
I
is
mean,
he?
he's just turned 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, with 3-year-olds, regardless of whatever boundary issues or what have you that are going on in the evening, if they're napping
Mm,
too late, it's always going to be hard to get them down earlier. Um,
yeah.
so that's something like if you know you if you come to me with some strategies to make your whole bedtime life come sooner in the night, like
Yeah.
like it's okay for babies to like for toddlers to go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock if that's what you want, but it feels like it doesn't
Mm,
isn't what you want.
no,
Yeah,
no, because
yeah.
then we've got, yeah, like Jossie falls asleep at about 7:30, no matter what, and then
That's
sleeps like
that's
a
my
log all
baby.
night.
That's my baby.
Yeah,
That's the baby that I looked after.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, he was a toddler when you worked with me, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was about 13 months, but he
yeah.
slept
Oh,
very
yeah.
well ever
Okay.
since.
It was
Yeah,
that young. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So at least you've got number one going to sleep, and then he's sleeping through until about 5:30, right?
yeah, or 6. I mean,
Okay.
he might get woken up by Eddie, who's the one who falls asleep late and wakes up
Yeah.
very early.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like to get to move in the right direction, that actually number two sleep needs to
Yeah,
come forward. And
yeah,
if number two sleep can come forward, then you're going to feel like a little bit more empowered to figure out what you want to do with number three sleep.
yeah,
Like, because like the strategies that I gave you before, they're just actionable straight away, so that in a month's time,
hmm,
if that hasn't like consolidated into Ada, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Her self-settling because she's an easygoing baby, then at least you're like, okay, she's not as easygoing, but you know,
hmm,
not a nightmare. You can move on to the spaced intervals if you feel that that's a strategy that you want to work
yeah,
on. Yeah.
hmm, yeah,
So that's what I would say to do, is to work on number two so that
hmm,
it's actually it'll so I'm making assumptions here, but I'm assuming that his naps are finishing at like 2 o'clock or onwards.
yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah,
See, I didn't
yeah.
even ask. I already knew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with toddlers of this age, yeah, they need that. It's too hard for them. It was like the other lady that actually posted as well, on the same thread before. It's too hard for them to last the whole day for most of them without having a
Hmm.
nap. So you have
Yeah.
to move it much, much further earlier into the day.
Yeah.
And
My husband keeps on saying 11 a.m. Get him to nap at
your
11.
husband's 100% right. Get him to come and work
Okay.
with me. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's right.
Yeah.
He's 100% right, because you're even if he resists asleep at that time, he can just have a bit of quiet time and then he can move on to bedtime. But if he's like relatively willing to have a nap, then yeah, just do it in the
Hmm.
morning.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, even if he's not, you're just having that quiet time. But the kid's waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. That's enough sleep
Mm.
pressure, especially if it sounds like they're high energy, which boys
Yeah.
normally are. They get like an insane amount of testosterone come like flooding through their body. They need to move. They need to do all sorts of things. They need to spend plenty of time outside. They need to do all of the things, and then they have
Yeah.
a rest so that they can regroup, and then they do all of the things in the afternoon. Just
Hmm.
wear them out. But yeah, you need to get that kid to come to bed earlier for all of your sanity, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
coming from me. That's just summarizing what I'm hearing from you. And then
Yeah. And yeah.
go
No,
on.
no, I was going to say, because yeah, that is the stress point for me,
Yeah.
probably more than anything else
Yeah.
at the moment. So
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the missing link. And also the part of this that's the most difficult is it sounds like you're allowing him to have a little bit too much control, which can be really,
Yeah.
really stimulating for toddlers. So it sounds like you and your husband have been trying to sort of like figure it out, but you just need to have someone come in and say, do you know what? You've got this. You've got to come back into certain leadership.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And so once you do that, like, and you have to stick with that strategy with him. And it's just like, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm laying down with you. And do you know what you need to do if it's you, if he wants you? The best thing that can work with toddlers, right?
Mhm.
At this age, as long as they have enough sleep pressure, is, oh, there she is.
Like,
came in at the end.
yeah.
The best thing that you can do with toddlers is when they're doing that whole like just 5 more minutes or whatever, like if he's mucking around, you need to let him know, like just bring you know, put an alarm on your phone and you tell him, and you need to follow through, you tell him, if you're not asleep by the time the ding 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 goes off on my phone, I'm gonna have to just go.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna lie down here. I'm assuming that you're doing a bit of a lie down and then you're just having a rest and you're both closing your eyes and then he's meant to go to sleep. But then he'll flop around or ask for something or start pulling at you or doing something or
climb on me, climb over me.
Yeah.
Kick his legs around.
Yeah. So he's like, he's trying to like see what he can, like see what boundaries are there. So you need to reinstitute some boundaries. Okay, if I'm coming to sleep with you tonight, if I'm going to lay down with you, you like me to lay down until you go to sleep?
Yeah.
That's fine. However, this is what's going to happen. Don't give choices too much. Like this whole choices for toddlers is like, what is this? Like they need they need to know what's going to happen. You only offer them control if you really want them to have control. You're the certain leader in this scenario. He doesn't get choices. Sleep is a must do. It's not an option. Yeah. Oh, hello, little one. Hello, Ada. Oh, she's sleeping. Hello. I'm talking about you.
and this guy.
Oh, hello. Oh my goodness. Those pearls are to die for.
Aren't they? Yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, so he will appreciate it. I promise you he'll appreciate not having too many options. You let him know what's happening next. If it's massive changes, then let him know as the day progresses and just say, this is what's happening. And even if he says whatever he might say about it, just remember that children are literal. Toddlers are literal. So it's not about like his preferences or whatever else. It's just, this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to lay with you till you go to sleep. And, but if you're not asleep by the time the alarm goes off, I'm going to go out to the kitchen and I'll check on you later. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. And there might be a little bit of a fuss the first time that happens because he's got to check if you're really going to do it.
Yeah. Sorry.
You know,
okay, done.
But once you follow through with that, it'll work itself out and he'll just like be like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And in addition to that, you've got the like much more sleep pressure for bedtime because you've moved the nap to earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And then we're going to
I guess
like,
one of the difficulties is
so they're by midday.
Yeah. Nap over. Okay. So just like a 1 hour nap.
1 hour. Yeah.
Okay.
1 hour, you know, like wake him up at 1 hour. It might take like a little bit longer to wake him up. But the cool thing about that is actually like earlier in the day, he probably won't need as long a nap anyway. So we're just relieving the sleep pressure, you know, so that he can last. And then in the afternoon, in the late afternoon, get your husband to just go and have some rough time with them if you're not already doing that, you know, like if you've got a trampoline or something like that. Pillow
6 o'clock lap.
Yeah, just go and earlier. Like let off some energy. It also gives you some downtime with Ada that you can just, it's not chaos, you know? So have that, let them get all their sillies out. And then, it's going to be it'll be so much better in that sense as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Okay.
And let them know that's what you're doing if you're not, or if you don't already have like a routine of that. It's like, okay, it's time to get all our sillies out or whatever you want to call it, and then you go off outside. If it's a rainy day, you figure something else inside, whatever,
Yeah.
So once you've got that, you're probably just going to feel less chaotic once that's in place, and give yourself a goal of instituting that. Try to get daycare on site. I've heard so many stories about them not being helpful with stuff like that.
I think they're likely to be. She's actually just about to start in a new room.
Okay. So they'll wake him up, because that's a
and
thing.
I'm sure they
They won't
will.
wake him up.
Yeah, no, they will.
Yeah.
I've had them like call me before and say, it's 3:00. Should we wake him up? I'm like, yes. Because he like hadn't gone to sleep until 2 or something,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different room. And also on 2 days a week, he's going to a new play school where they don't do naps. I think they just do quiet time. So he won't be getting an opportunity to nap there. So the problem will be if he
they do quiet time, but they're not allowed to go to sleep.
Well, I don't know. It's just different. It's more like a preschool structure.
Oh,
so I
do
don't
you know
think...
what that probably is like no pressure to have a nap, but if like, I think that's probably what it is. Like, usually at kindies, or like, I know like with places like Steiner, they have preschool at the actual school, and they can sleep or they can choose not to sleep, but it's quiet time. So hopefully it's something like that, because because kids are at different levels. Some kids have dropped their nap and other kids want to keep their nap right up until 7 or something. Like they're all different, So, and often when they see other kids like sleeping, they just want to have a sleep. So
he sleeps much. Like, naps have been difficult at home as well, because ever since like he's not in a cot anymore. Like he was a great sleeper when we could just put him in bed and shut the door and leave.
Yeah.
But ever since he's been able to climb out of the cot and we've moved him into a bed, it's been impossible. It's been
that's
really
a
hard.
whole other story that's for another day for us to prevent when it comes to Ada, because that's more to do with spaciousness, and people go straight to a big bed and then all of a sudden they have all this space, and that's a whole psychological breakdown for another day. But
all right.
a little bit further down the track. But it sounds like you've got your hands full now, but does that help?
It really, it does. And I think, that's still part of the problem with Eddie. Like we've had to move the boys into a room together. They've got bunk beds, and then Eddie keeps them like wanting to try and climb up onto the bunk bed and top bunk and muck around. Like, so if we're not there with him, he's, getting up to mischief. Yeah. So
being a normal, let's see what happens if I do this.
Yeah. So it's harder to do the sort of bedtime. It's like, okay, I'm going to leave in 5 minutes, because if you leave, you have to come straight back and deal with whatever's going on. So set the alarm and stay with him. And then, but again, like, don't forget the missing component is like, because that would work, because he'll just get all like, haywire. But if he's actually having his nap much earlier in the day, he's going to be a bit more tired. And you just decide the amount of time that he needs. But an hour is too long. Of course, you're feeling crazy. It's like, it's too long, unless you're able to actually have a nap with him. Like, that's no good. Like, So do that part, follow through. Just think of the areas that you can control, because obviously there's other stuff that you can't. But I think that like there's an element of upgrading in certainty. If you've got too much ambiguous kind of setups, then because he knows, he's like, well, there's another baby here, so she can't really follow through with that. I'm gonna see if she can. Like, she's going to be testing a lot of boundaries because of number 3. Because that's really interesting, because he can tell that you can't keep up. We're outnumbered now.
Baby. So that's why some separation where dad inserts himself and you just move separately over, but also having that one-on-one time with him when it's realistic and you can follow through with it, so that you're like 100% there when you decide to have that one-on-one time with him, rather than it just being like, oh, I feel a bit guilty, I haven't done it, and then like I'm still doing all this other stuff. So just find somewhere along the way where you can have that one-on-one time with him, even if it's not for very long, but it's 100%. That's always so much better than like lots and lots but not really present, if that makes sense. And then he'll know. You just like put all of those parts together, but the first bit is that, because that's going to help you guys feel a lot less like you're drowning. Is like move up to treading water, and then after that you can move towards getting Ada down a bit sooner, and then you'll all start feeling a lot better. So with Ada, just do the 3 stages, but including the 10-minute wait. See how that works out. If you still feel like you need help, then you can just like connect with me and do like a 2-week program or something, and we can work on it together.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Sorry that it's been chaos during on my end.
I feel like you're doing so amazingly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So good. I was like, we've managed to have a proper consultation and we're just like been all over the place. Yeah.
No, it's been awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, little ones, for letting Mum have a chat with
me.
See you, Ada. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Okay, you can sit down. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, Raquel.